everyone. This is Rashonda, the Dietitian Against Diets. You are in for a treat. I have with me Khalia Collier, which is the owner of the St. Louis Surge Women's Professional Basketball Team. You will be delighted to hear her story and what she has done for the city and what are her plans moving forward. So, as we roll into that conversation, I want you guys to have your ears open, be ready to hear what she has to say. And before we get to that conversation, I want to know if you guys have heard of some of the local companies here in St. Louis. There are a lot of things happening here in St. Louis, and I think a lot of people are unaware of. So I want to kind of highlight some of these companies because they also have recognized what the Dietitian Against Diets podcast is about, and they're fully supporting it. One company in particular is called Custom Foodscaping. And I like saying custom foodscaping because the word foodscaping is a unique piece of it. So essentially, we're changing not just the language, but we're changing the layout of how we utilize our land. So whether you're a university, whether you're a restaurant, or whether you're a residential area or community center, we all know that we like to put our flowers out, create the aesthetics, and have a good, nice view of gardens. Well, custom foodscaping, actually, they shaking things up. They believe in utilizing your space for food. So instead of landscaping, we're going to do foodscaping. So you're going to learn how to change that garden to where it can still be aesthetically appeasing, but you also can eat out of it. So it's essentially connecting you to your land and finding more efficient, sustainable ways so we can pay it for with growing our own foods. Go to the website and you kind of will see their store and their mission. Go to www.com, Custom Foodscaping, and you will be able to kind of see what they're all about as well as the projects that they have coming up. And they also do workshops. Follow them on Instagram at Custom Foodscaping, and you can see their products. And again, get an idea of what their energy is about and what's their mission behind what they do. Custom Foodscaping. Midwest Dairy. Midwest Dairy is an organization here in the region of not only St. Louis, but Missouri, but other Midwest regions, and they are a collection of dairy farmers and a coalition that wants to help connect the consumers to what they're eating and why they're eating. So when it comes to our dairy goods, we know that we can get anything we need out of a grocery store. But do we really know all the work and time that has been put behind it, the care for the cows, the sustainability practices, the regulation that checks to make sure that nothing comes out of those dairy farms untainted? Like, that's what Midwest Dairy Council is about. So their whole push is called Undeniably Dairy, where you can understand how delicious your dairy can be, but also all the practices that have been placed behind it to make sure that everything is healthy and that you are getting everything you need as far as your nutrition. Go to dairygood.com and you get more information, and you will be able to more so understand what farming is and all the practices that they have done and the changes they have made moving forward to make sure that our land and our cows and our products are superb. Find them also on Midwest Dairy on Instagram, and you'll see some recipes. So I think it's a 2-in-1 in that one. Also, another company here in St. Louis, well, actually, this is a St. Louis company, more so in the area, is called Sarah Food. So Sarah Food is it's connecting you to local chefs here, and it's connecting you to finding certain foods that you may only have certain options of eating. So, for example, if you're a vegetarian, if you're vegan, or if you have a gluten intolerance, this is the place you want to go because they make meals that are specific to your needs, and also you get to know the chef who's making it. So knowing the person behind the scenes, I think that creates value because it gives you more appreciation of the way that your food is made, and also help you to know that there are real people behind the scenes that's creating this meal for you. If you want to check them out and try out their food, so you know someone that will probably need a service like this, also tell them to take advantage of the promotion code of LOVE, capital L, capital O, capital V, capital E, and they will get 20% off their services. Also find them on Instagram at Sarah_food, and you would see more of what's going on behind the scenes with that company, Sarah Foods. Last but not least, one of my favorites is Banner Roads. So Banner Roads is a granola company. And it's a local St. Louis company. But what's unique about their company is that their chef, she is very passionate about her products, and she has found a unique way to enjoy granola. So when I say unique, I say it for a reason because it's not the traditional cinnamon and chocolate and apple flavors. She's coming with flavors like blueberry, adding peanut butter to it. Well, peanut butter with a twist of banana. Let me clarify that. She has certain ones that's sweet potatoes that has turmeric in it, something like ginger and molasses. I mean, it's some crazy combinations she has coming. She's bringing to the table, but I guarantee you that you will enjoy it. So take a step out there, try something different, and be comfortable knowing that it's still healthy and it's all natural, pure ingredients. Go to bannerrose.com and you will see exactly what I mean with some of these flavors. And also follow them on Instagram at bannerrose. Rashonda Thornton, Dietitian Against Diets, back again with my podcast. I've never really talked about some of the things I've done in my prior youth, but I played a lot of sports. I was an athlete. I played basketball particularly. And one thing I learned as a basketball player, or when I look back in retrospect, we had no idea what we were doing when it came to like how we fueled our body and our nutrition, and we just winged it. And I felt like as having that experience and then going into my professional career, one of the areas of nutrition is that I work with is sports. So I'm also a sports dietitian because I know as a athlete myself, if I would have known how to fuel my body, I would have done. Felt like maybe could have got to the WNBA or something. I don't know. That may be a wild dream, but I feel like I could have went further in my basketball career and could have prevented me from a lot of injuries. So I'm saying that to say because I had met this young lady, I want to say maybe a year and a half ago, like in passing, just randomly, but we've always kind of like gravitated towards each other. And one day led to another. We eventually just kind of created more of a connection because I respect what she does, and I do a lot of things in line with what she does within her profession. So I wanted to bring her on today. Her name is Khalia Collier. She is the owner and general manager of St. Louis Surge Women's Professional Basketball Team. One thing I can say about her is that she grew up in St. Louis, went to high school in St. Louis. Then you go out.
Went to college in St. Louis.
Went to college in St. Louis and just decided she's going to continue to not just root herself in St. Louis, but build something bigger. So in 2011, she purchased the Women's St. Louis Surge. And I don't have all the statistics, but I know over the past, since 2011, they had won 2 championships. And things have just kind of snowballed. For one, I know the organization is getting bigger. It's catching a lot of more fire. And Khalias actually continuing to excel in what she's doing for not only St. Louis Surge, but also for women's professional basketball. So right now she serves the GWBA League's commissioner. So what is the GWBA?
The Global Women's Basketball Association.
Okay, got it. So I want to introduce her. I'm glad she's on today, but I definitely want to give her the microphone a little bit and let you know more about who she is, because I just kind of gave an overall, but I know so many of the layers underneath that. So thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. And is it fair to go ahead and make our announcement now, or should we wait and keep them guessing?
You know what? Let's wait towards the very end. We won't forget.
Right.
We won't forget. Yeah.
So you definitely want to listen through to hear the big announcement. This is super exciting to be sitting with you today because we cross paths a lot. We have natural synergy, and when we talk about entertainment value, but professional athletes, your health is key. Wellness, just being active, and to see what our players incorporate in their daily routines, and also what we're building in the community, I think just shares natural alignment.
Yeah, I agree with that. And one of the things I wanted to create a connection, because a lot of times people feel if you're a professional player in whatever sport, you look at that person as someone that you can't relate to, and you see them at their most elitist, highest level. But I know, we're all people, and the women that you bring on to your basketball team, they're more than just a basketball player. They have a life, and they have a very successful life, and very well educated. So, I feel like there's a parallel between wellness when it comes to, yes, women's professional basketball players, but what about just connecting them to a regular person?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is a common theme that we really saw, that you're more than an athlete. And that applies to every person
True.
within our community as well. You're more than your career.
Mm.
There's a combination of you having to stay active, having to stay fit, wanting to put the best things in your body. And that's something that we've now set as an expectation for our players, that they've already incorporated a part of their daily lives too. And I think the biggest thing that I would hear all the time is, I'm not a professional athlete. I didn't play
Yeah.
collegiate sports. I haven't played at that elite level. It doesn't change. And one, the transition out of collegiate athletics is a hard one, because no one's telling you when to work out, what to eat,
Mm-hmm.
how many times to work out. So I've had to make that transition personally,
Okay.
being like, this is what I want for my own life. Now, how do I continue to spread that message with other women, to make sure that it's not about being a professional athlete, it's about being fit, being healthy, being active. And so how does the surge also make sure we're doing our part in the community as well?
Yep. And I think that's so important, because you don't think past, you have your, you graduated, you get your, you have your games and you have your season, but you don't think about, I mean,
You
not,
don't.
just think
You
about it, like,
don't.
no one thinks about the next day.
Right.
And I think, when it comes to just everyday people, like, we have our goals that we reach, whether it's a job promotion or we have our family, like, we have all these things that we should all endeavor to, strive for. But we don't really, when it comes to, like, as our body's changing and as our health, we don't look at the next day. And I
Right.
think that's something that is just now there is a veil is starting to be revealed, to where people are starting to look ahead.
Yeah.
One thing that when you and I had more conversation, you were really talking to me about, what all you encapsulated your players with. They're just not here with you for the season to just play a couple of games. You're finding ways to invest into them on and off the course. So can you speak a little bit upon that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the part when people hear St. Louis Surge, first, that we have a professional basketball team in our city,
Yes.
that we've won 2 national championships, we're 5-time regional champs, and out of 8 seasons, we've competed in 6 national championships. So we have 4 runner-ups
Okay.
under our belt as well. So the talent that you see a part of our roster with all of our players, we have an average of 7 to 8 All-Americans on our roster. All of our players are postgraduates, over half of which with advanced degrees. The talent that we see firsthand, but that's almost the easy part for us. When we say we recruit character first without sacrificing talent, what we incorporate off the court is just as impactful as what you see on the court. And the off the court process is actually what I have the most fun with. Like,
Yeah.
winning a national championship is the cherry on top. I always definitely want to add some more hardware to us. And yes, I'm looking forward to hopefully customizing another championship ring this year.
Of course.
But it's the flip side of what we're doing with our players. We have a very extensive interview process. Every player goes through at least 6 interviews. Every player goes through a full personality and a professional assessment. We pair that data within our corporate network to actually find them careers and focusing on their strengths. We run them through a very robust program in terms of financial management. Every player building to a 720 credit score. Every player understanding what home ownership looks like. Every player understanding the dynamics of why it's so valuable for them to be engaged in the community and build a network, because those are the relationships that you're going to build that's going to be beneficial to your career and the longevity of how successful you are. And so it's kind of turned into like this boot camp, because we blitz the summer. We're May through August. I'm recruiting players all across the country, and we're attracting them to St. Louis and retaining them in St. Louis. I think that's what's actually been most impressive, to see how many players we have out of state that decide to make St. Louis their home.
Okay.
Because they've been surrounded with an umbrella of resources. We have one of the best accountants, physicianal staffs, attorneys, all of these things. Now adding the health component to something that's been really key, a part of the long-term success of not just an athlete, but what you do post-career. And I think far too often, too many players and athletes don't look at how you can be planning for what's next. They always wait until their career's over, and they're like, oh no, like,
about it. Yeah.
this is over. What do I do? Versus we put a huge emphasis in actually planning and preparing simultaneously. We want you to continue your career as a professional athlete as long as you want to, but making sure that you know when that transition's ready, you're not going to be shell-shocked when it happens. You're already in line with the path to be able to transition into what's next.
Now, have you seen this model before, or is this something that you and your team have just kind of developed?
We've created a blueprint. That's something I've been very focused on with Surge. When we talked about scalability, there's not another team structured with a Surge model across the country. And so that's something that I really wanted to incorporate from a national, global standpoint with the GWBA, is really being able to not make Surge on an island. We have been on an island for quite some time. As we're headed into our 9th season, there's 12 WNBA teams, and then there's the Surge. We've operated in this very interesting gray space. So to see where we are in terms of a foundational standpoint really gives us a huge upside in 2020 to be able to not only increase our market awareness here in St. Louis, but regionally and nationally.
Yeah. Do you feel like, because you have done a lot to give to the city, do you feel like there's reciprocation as far as
Absolutely.
the amount of support and
Yeah,
people that are coming on
every
board?
fan that we have, we've earned. And I think that's what's really
Go
cool.
ahead, say that again a little
Uh,
bit slower, because that's a big deal.
Every fan that we have genuinely earned by being entrenched in the community. And I think what is cool is those who experience a Surge game and you remember it because it's such an experience. The atmosphere that we created is positive energy. It's reflective of what the community, it becomes your norm. We draw town and country in St. Louis City in one spot. The demographics that we have as a part of our fan base, we have such a loyal following. And when people hear that we're now grown past 3,000 fans, that we're averaging 2,000 to 3,000 fans, and it's been organic. That's been grassroots effort. So it really gives us a true foundation as we continue to grow and create that market awareness for more people to be able to experience women's professional basketball.
And I think that is so important because when you think of any professional athlete, you think untouchable, or you think they don't have enough time, or you have to jump through hoops just to get them to acknowledge you.
Yep.
And I've been to a game, and one of the things that stood out to me after the game was that the players, they wasn't communicating with the news. They wasn't communicating with like their relatives that are coming around. They went directly and would just start interacting with the kids. And you particularly, when during the game, I'm seeing you throughout the whole game in your heels, walking around, squatting down with the girls and the boys, shooting, signing the balls, engaging conversation, not just waiting for them to come to you.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, that's just only a piece of it. But it just helped me to see, when I think of professional sports, I don't think of them being so focused on, making sure everyone feel inclusive and making sure fans feel like they can actually touch them. I mean, it means a lot. Just think about if we were like little girls.
It's so
and
impressionable.
Then we went to something
it's
like
so
this,
impressionable. Yeah, and I think even as an adult, you remember the first time you met a celebrity. You remember the first game you ever attended, and we get to be that first experience for so many people. And as adults, for the first time that they're experiencing women's professional sports.
Sure.
And so what I love is that we're actually redefining winning. We're not redefining winning just by wins and losses, but by being engaged in the community, by really having an emphasis on what that next generation sees. And Surge is my Disney World. And for players, if you don't naturally like kids, if you don't naturally like to volunteer, the Surge simply is not for you. And so since that's a part of our recruiting process, it's not that they share that. They want to be a part of that experience. And for players, especially women's athletics, women's professional sports, you are internally grateful because your fans are your customers. And that's something that we make very clear, a part of the Surge organization, is that this is a huge deal for us. These people could be anywhere else on a Saturday night at 6, 7 o'clock with us at WashU, but they're here with the Surge. And so we want to give them the best experience. So they walk away, guess what they do? They tell their neighbors, their friends, their family.
And that's how it grows.
And that's how it continues to build.
Yeah. So, I mean, did you just wake up one night and say, "This is what I'm going to do"? It's, you know how like if you can fast forward your life, and you're in these successes, right? These things doors have just opened up, but there's always a pathway that leads to those doors. So for you to get into this position where you said, "I'm going to buy a basketball team," I don't think you just buying a basketball team because St. Louis seems like it'd be a cool idea. What can you kind of talk about your path as to coming out of school and getting into the space where you're having these thoughts and then putting the pieces together to make it happen?
Yeah, I think entrepreneurship has always been in my blood. Both of my parents are entrepreneurs, something I've always seen at a young age. I worked firsthand with my mother's business since I can even think when I first started talking. And I was blessed with this gift of gab. So going into sales was kind of natural for me.
Yeah.
But fast forward out of college, I played basketball and golf in college. Not many people know I played golf.
Okay.
I'm a better golfer than I am basketball player. But I transitioned right into corporate. And the plan for me was to go to law school. And then we have all these paths that we think we're going to take.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it's really having a plan B, C, D, and really being able to pivot when needed. And I think the surge presented an opportunity for me since they were already here. It was a small semi-pro team playing at a local high school.
Didn't know that.
50 to 60 fans. And
Really?
how I actually found out about the surge was one of my best friends was trying out for the team. And I was like, yeah, I'll go as a supportive friend. I had already transitioned into corporate. I was working a legit 60, 65 hours a week, but I missed being around sports. I missed the love of the game and the camaraderie. And so when I saw Surge, it was like a light bulb went off for me, that this was a golden opportunity to create something unique that I know I never had the experience or the chance to experience as a kid here in St. Louis. We're the first women's pro team to make a consistent impact in the city in over 30 years.
Wow.
And it's been an untapped market. And so in May of 2011, at 23, I took this crazy leap of faith to buy a basketball team. But I felt like the writing was kind of already on the wall for me. I'd been in sales, I had been in finance. I was working with a Fortune 500 company. I got to see big budgets. I got to make hiring decisions and really kind of lay the groundwork for what it would be to run a team.
Yeah.
And
So
that was the start.
Stones.
And then researching everything I could about the business of sports. All of my best friends, we all played different sports in college, from volleyball to tennis to track. So to see that, you know, it wasn't just about the game of basketball, that just happened to be the entertainment value we were going to provide in the city, but it was really standing true to our mission, our vision, our values of what we could create in St. Louis. That's what I'm excited about.
Yeah.
And I think that's when people come to a Surge game. Basketball is the given, but it's all the other elements that you get to experience, and that's where people see long-term value. They want to know that when people are taking their kids to games, when they're just coming to games, they're seeing women who have incredible careers that are super talented, but they're really smart.
Yeah. And that's another thing. Like, when I first heard about the Surge, I understood, that's the first thing I understood, that all these women, they play, but they also have master degrees, they have they're accountants, they have professional careers. And I think, you know, for any, you know, especially females, like, you have more than one hat, you have more than one talent. You can do things, you can follow your goals and your dreams simultaneously. You know?
And that really, like, that's a role model. When you want a role model, someone where you want your kids looking up to, or just mutual shared respect, when you see another powerhouse, you just respect it. You respect the grind. You respect their tenacity and their will to be successful and to live their dreams. And I think that's something that just is naturally motivating and inspiring within itself. Of, like, you see me and you see Surge, but you see everybody else that's a part of our team to make this happen. And I think that's what really inspires people, that they leave with a completely different takeaway outside of just the 2 hours they were with us.
And you know what? And just to be very, if you could be as unbiased as you can, when your team travels to other teams and play in their arena, in their gym, do you see, like, that difference in just the way they engage with their crowds, or like how they?
I do,
you know,
and we have a lot of teams, and not just within our league, but in general. I work across several different leagues that really want to capture the experience that we're able to offer. And a part of that is that authenticness that you can't just sell and package, right? That has to come from you. Like, someone can give you the playbook, but you got to run it. And that's the genuineness that I think of just engaging with people. Not just signing an autograph, because, you know, you don't even make eye contact with the kid that walks up to you, but actually being like, hey, what's your name? How do you give that invitation for someone to be like, wow, they really cared about me? That's from the heart. You can't fake that.
Yeah.
And that's what it's been really good to just be able to share that with other teams, for them to see the value and why just being personable goes a long way. It's customer service 101.
Yeah.
Well, you go to a restaurant anywhere, you remember the person that actually cared, or
you do.
If you go back and they remembered what you ordered, you're like blown away.
I mean, it's a lot of companies that are modeling that. I mean, because people are just not a number; they are human, and it's not about even doing it so they can keep coming back. It's
Yep.
to want them to have this experience. And
Yep.
if you have to be the trailblazer for it, then I would rather be the trailblazer, to be honest with you. Now I know some of the things we were talking about a couple weeks ago. You were really wanting to, because of course we got to talk a little bit about the wellness component of it.
Yes.
And it seemed like you're wanting to build messaging out, because you're talking about being engaged with the community and making them a part of this. But you're also wanting to find ways to use your team as a platform to create other like positive influences
Yeah.
on the community. And I know like over this season, you have, what are some of your plans for, what are people to expect, what they're going to expect from the Surge for this upcoming season?
So every home game for us is a theme. It's a theme that we're able to introduce new things in the community. We're able to add educational value where you wouldn't typically see. And I started kind of toying around with that the past couple of seasons of incorporating voter registration, incorporating these healthy habits, into our programs and our vendors and our sponsors that are on site. That's being able to give you new information that's not like forcing it down your throat.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, we see education and we're like, oh, I don't feel like doing that. But when it's tied into something that's fun, you receive it differently. And so I wanted to kind of start shifting. How do we introduce that to our fan base and make it this holistic experience? And that's something I think I'm really pumped about this year, is being able to introduce new topics, new education around, here are great ways for you to stay healthy. Here are great things that you can eat, after the game. What's going to be your next day, afternoon meal that, is an easy recipe that we have because one of our players has been trying it out. We get to do so many different things outside of the box. And I think that's what is so much fun, because we have a blank canvas and we get to introduce things to within our community and to our fan base that maybe they wouldn't typically be exposed to.
And I think because you're so involved in the community, you see where the need is.
Yeah.
As how these themes are coming up, you're recognizing, okay, people may not understand the process of voter registration. They may not feel that it's important. So how can you create an influence where you get them at least thinking about it,
Or thinking you have to make all this money to eat healthy. Not everybody can afford to shop at Whole Foods. Not everybody can afford to be at Trader Joe's every week.
Big thing too.
But you can be selective and intentional with what you're putting in your body that's not breaking your pockets either.
Yeah.
And I think that, especially as being a young professional and then realizing like how much our bodies change as we get older, like turning 30 for me was a game changer. I was like, interesting. I can no longer eat like this and look like this. So you have to make some adjustments.
Yeah.
And that goes for the everyday person, whether you're a professional athlete or not. We've seen a ton of athletes that they stop playing and then all of a sudden it's like, who are they?
Yeah.
And so there's a certain look of vanity that I think comes with health too. That's okay to talk about. But also just being conscious of sharing those things to where you don't have to wait to be shell-shocked to be able to make that transition in your life. And what better to do it in 2020, right? Where you have this whole new decade to be the best version of yourself.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's very important. With you, you're always moving left and right, front and back. You have a pretty busy schedule. So do you find it, like, where do you find it personally, like, difficult to, even just not make healthy choices, but just be aware, be conscious of it with having a busy schedule?
It is. It's being intentional. I've gotten really a lot better, let me say, at scheduling the things that I know I need to incorporate into my daily life. Part of that is self-care. I go, and I'm like, man, my body's killing me. I need to go to the chiropractor. Let me actually incorporate stretching. I need to do yoga. Oh, and by the way, don't eat this burger. Try this salad. Or get a burger without a bun. Those are things that
figure out your way.
They require conscious effort. And that's something that I'm looking forward to incorporating in my own lifestyle, because I'm real quick to hit a diet. Like 30 days, about to go on this cleanse, 1 week Cuba cheese diet.
Right.
They are not long term.
Yeah.
Those are for my Sex and the City fans who would know the Cuba cheese diet.
Like, I don't know.
That is just before you're about to pass out, you eat a Cuba cheese. It's a terrible plan.
Oh, okay. I get it now. Oh my.
But understanding that, those aren't sustainable and you can't live like that. And so that's something that I'm looking forward to incorporating, and not saying that I'm going to start it on Monday or we'll wait till February 1, or oh, I don't know, I missed this quarter. We'll start in the summertime because that's when I want that body.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
it's really making it a part of your daily routine.
And with society, we're so I want to say brainwashed, but we're so conditioned to look at. We don't ever, because as a reason why I was asking you is because people every day have busy lives,
Yes.
and it's never going to slow down. If anything, it's going to get busier.
Yep.
And so a lot of times when we have busy schedules, we do get distracted because we get caught into our routine or something happens unexpectedly, and in our mind, everything shifts to that. It's a crisis, right? Yep. But because of that, when it comes to like the healthy part or just I'll just leave it self-care because self-care represents everything. The body, of course, nutrition, but just how are you taking care of yourself? And we just push it to the side because we feel like we don't have time. And you're never going to have time. So it's about, like I say, being
make
intentional
time.
and
That will never
carving
go
out
away.
time.
When
Yeah.
people talk about, I don't have time, we always make time for the things that we want to do.
Oh, yeah.
It will never, ever fail. If you want to be here, guess what? You make time. If you want to do this, guess what? You make time. And it's the same thing with what you put in your body. And I love, it was actually a part of our conversation. We were talking about you no longer want to put those things in your body because it's not giving you the fuel that you need. And so I heard that and I was like, cool, Khalias, stop eating hot wings. Like, make better decisions.
Yeah.
And I think that's the cool part is when you get to make that decision, and it's not that you're punishing yourself by not eating all these things. You're just repositioning what's really good for your body.
Yeah. And when it comes to, separating, there's an incentive, when it comes to the fueling piece. Like you want to fuel for your activity,
Yep.
fuel for your sport. And sometimes that's our incentive to, put things together. But you also got to consider fueling and just giving your body just everyday, daily nutrients. It's not necessarily focused on energy. And a lot of times we don't take the time to recognize, what we're putting in our bodies doing to us and for us until it's too late. Or until we've, got to where we have some sort of health condition or, we just feel so out of control,
Yeah.
But as I was saying earlier, with having a busy schedule, like carving out time to go to the store, carving out time to get your foods together. If you run out of the house, you need to have snacks ready to just pick up and grab because it's going to happen, you know. But with you, like, you have to be on top of your game. You grew this team from 50 to 60 people
to 3,000 plus now.
That's
and
a lot of
incorporating us having a heck of a lot more growth this year.
Yeah. And and this is still only the cusp of it. So right now it's, like you say, you have already made plans to implement these practices that's going to be able to be all about you, self-care and self-love, so you can be able to do even more.
And I'll be honest, I really enjoyed our conversation because you talked about meal prepping, and I've always considered meal prepping to be so tedious. You're like, oh, I don't want to do this, versus meal prepping and being like, because when I eat these things, I'm going to have more energy within my day. I'm not going to be exhausted. I'm not going to hit this crash. I'm not going to hit this wall because I didn't eat today at 6 o'clock, and now I'm eating a terrible meal, for my dinner at 7, 8 o'clock. And that's something that it's like almost, I call it like repositioning your mind, because you're convincing yourself to maneuver differently than you typically have. But almost psyching yourself up of knowing like, this is why I'm doing this. And then here's my long-term benefit. And the truth is when you eat better, you look better. You're healthier. You have more energy. You just have this glow and jam. And I don't want to lose that. My days are really busy. I'm used to working these double-digit days. And I want to be able to sustain at that pace. But I feel like that's interval training to me, to where I go really, really, really hard. And then, I coast a little bit back and I ramp up. And we all kind of do that over the holidays because you kind of chillax a little bit and then you ramp up going into the new year.
Yeah. And, we looking at like when we're eating and our food and our fueling, you say like you say she grabbed the water for all those on audio. When you're looking at fueling and we're looking at long term, and yes, you're going to go through ebbs and flows, but like you said, like when you are getting your foods, cutting your foods, preparing a meal prep, it's just really not a task that you have to do in order to be healthy. It's a opportunity where you are preparing what your body needs so that you can fuel yourself so you can feel better and be healthy. And just that switch of your why reason can completely change, like, you looking at it as not a task but as an opportunity.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. It's really an opportunity, and we shortchange it so much because we can push a couple buttons on our phone and get someone to be not someone's knocking on our door with food,
Yep.
or we can go to the drive-through within 3 minutes. We can have something in a bag. So a business owner of mine, a business owner that I met, he owns a restaurant here in St. Louis, and he said something that stood out to me, and I've never said it that way, nor have I looked at it. But he said people devalue food. They devalue. Think about a chef perspective. They devalue the work that's put behind it, and the time, and the preparation, and the education, and they just put it in their mouth. And
Yeah.
a lot of times, because life is so busy, we just put something in our mouth.
Unless you're a foodie, and I'm kind of a foodie, but I can't tell you that now, having a couple friends that are chefs and seeing how intentional they are in the flavoring, the seasoning, and all the things that they do behind the scenes. But that's with like every business, right? Like when people come to a game, they have no idea the behind the scenes of like the operations that took us to get here to this moment
Yeah.
to tip off. And I think once you have that perspective of seeing the behind the scenes to what's going in, your food, how your clothes have been made, and we can apply that to so many things.
True, very true.
It heightens your appreciation. And I think if we continue to do that with food, we're going to see this next generation, and then just us ourselves, just be more conscious of, man, it was crazy to me. Half of our team, a couple of seasons ago, and they kept this moving forth, all became vegetarians and vegans after What the Health, right? Because it's like, oh my gosh, like this is what I'm eating. And just that level of being conscious of what's going in your body completely shifted your mindset. And I'm very curious to see just how this next wave of, we know what we're eating now. Now you can't
Yep.
go to a restaurant
The
without seeing the calories. You're seeing ingredients. You're mindful of these things. And we weren't that mindful 10 years ago.
Very true. And I was going to ask you about, as far as your the generations, like, because as you get new players, these are younger players.
Yes.
So I'm sure you're seeing a shift in like their choices, or like how, what they're doing, because now they're coming with more education. There's enough research and science that have proven the negative health effects of certain foods and
Yep.
products where they're made. So unfortunately can be the guinea pigs, or our generation right in front of us. But now as we're moving forward, there is a shift. There is a shift, and I think that's a positive thing. And I think when it comes to, how are you, like, with your players, as far as how you have started to implement this into your life, creating an environment to where they can have that same influence.
Yes.
And I was careful not to say show them how they should do it, because you can never make someone. It's your influence. It's your, how are you surrounding them to where they are exposed, to where they do have the opportunity, if they choose, and they have the ability to be educated more, so they can have a deeper reason as to why.
And I feel like that's my role as owner and general manager, as a leader within our organization, to be able to provide these resources under our umbrella of, we're building a healthy environment. Your mental fitness is just as key. We're seeing, therapists and psychologists be a huge part of the sports community in professional sports. We're seeing sports nutritionists now being really focused in saying, this is what you have to put in your body. That's my responsibility as an owner, to make sure that my players are as healthy as possible and competing at their best level. So why wouldn't I invest in them, not only on the court, but off the court?
Yeah. I think it's a new thing.
Yeah.
But I think that, unfortunately, I'm happy to hear it, because as I told you, not just for opportunity for me in my profession, but I saw what it looked like. I mean, you would go to practice, and what would you eat before practice? Well, first of all, if it's after school, or if you're in college in between classes,
Yeah.
what the heck are we putting in our
I remember
mouths?
after every college game, we got pizza. And if I fed my players pizza after a game, they would look at me so sideways. That is not what they are.
That's not
what
what
they're used to putting in their bodies, and that's not how I'm about to refuel
Yeah.
after a game with some greasy pizza. And so it changes the game.
It does.
It really does. But I think the long-term effect of that is invaluable.
Yep. And I think, like I said, because times are changing, and other the relevancy of sports nutrition is becoming more apparent, there is a bigger buy-in. But even as someone in my profession, yes, how can I help you to be the best on the field, on the court, in the gym? I need to make sure like me personally, I'm going to make sure I incorporate this into how can we turn this into like a forever thing?
Yeah.
Because like I say, you're not going to be a player forever, nor should you want to be one, but you want to be able to live forever in
What
your
we
best
know
health.
is health is wealth, right? We know this. So I don't think anybody who's listening to this, even right now, is like, you know what? I do not want to be healthy. I hope that my stomach hurts me today. No one feels that way. You want to be the best version of yourself. And that means putting the best possible foods into your system.
Yeah.
And making the conscious choice not to just go through the drive-through because it's a quick fix. You're not going to feel good afterwards, depending on what you're eating and where you're going.
Yeah. One of the, I forgot who was it. Actually, one of my colleagues told me about it. He read he watched a show or whatever and had like two professional athletes, and they played the same position, same body physique, same height, same age. They were just basically identical in regards to just their building, their ability. And they asked Philly, I forgot which professional like football player. They asked him a question of, he used this model to say what would be the difference between these two players had the same exact ability and skill set. What would be the difference that will help one to excel more than the other? They have the same training, same everything, and it's their nutrition. It is literally their nutrition, because if you are optimizing how your body is fueled through your foods, that's going to allow your body to be optimized in everything, from your cardiovascular system to your power, to your speed, to your strength, to your
Absolutely.
to your agility. And like that's the defining difference between the two. And I think that's something that we have not been taught, but now we're bringing it to the next generation. But even now, I have to think beyond that. I think beyond like, yes, what's going to help you be the best mother? What's going to help you to be the best father, sister, caregiver? That's going to be the defining difference. So I think, like you said, as you're messaging, as you are going to incorporate some of these things into your next season, like people, you can't make people, you can only influence them and empower them to choose for themselves. But the more they hear all of these people and organizations that they respect on the same team, it's going to get them to thinking.
I think what I find fascinating is there is no one size fits all, right?
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to your health and just what you're putting in your body, and it's customized to us individually. And it really is different for us, especially as women. I know a couple of my male counterparts that will eat the same thing. I know if I keep that same schedule, I will not look like him in 30 days.
Yeah.
And so it's really changing, what your build is, how your metabolism works, and all of those things, and being conscious and knowing your body. And I think that's like cool, of like learning yourself.
It is. It really is. And you'll be amazed when you pay attention. When you're able to pay attention, if something you just had a little bit too much than you needed, or why did my stomach hurt after I eat that 3 cupcakes? Like,
it's also accepting some of the things you already know. For example, I am lactose intolerant. Why I love ice cream and cheese as much as I do, I don't know. But I have to be more responsible to not putting those things in my body because it hurts me.
Yeah.
And so some of the things we already know that we know aren't good for us, but it's having the self-discipline to not do it.
I'll say this because we're getting close to the end, but I always tell people to stand up for your gut, for your body. And the reason I say stand up for your body, or be the spokesman for your body, is because it's really the tongue versus the body. Our tongue, our mind, we want this. It tastes so good. This 2x3 piece of muscle in your mouth, that's the culprit of a lot of things, because it gets 2 or 3 minutes of pleasure from the taste, and then our body has to deal with whatever we give it. So I say a lot of times when we're thinking about what should we eat or how should we do it, we have to speak up for our body, because our body is just subjected to whatever we give it, just period. And so that's why if we keep giving our body, it may be the best thing in the world, but the worst for our body, and we keep, kind of compromising, our body can only work with crap, and it breaks down. It breaks down. But we start thinking about, okay, I do want something good on the tongue, but I also want something that's good for my system.
Yeah.
And finding your balance with that, and be able to feel good about knowing you're giving your body the best. so it can give you the best. It's just, to me, it's just so
Yeah,
simple.
I love that, especially as we've all started this new theme for 2020 of being the best version of yourself, and it's a life model that I continue
Yeah.
to go with. It's really, and you've heard this, like if better is possible, then good is not enough, right? So I know that I can make a conscious decision today of what I'm going to put in my mouth for lunch, and what am I going to eat for dinner, and then how am I going to prepare for the next week. And I kind of kid because I go on a lot of diets, and my friends will mess with me for those who are possibly healthier than me. And I said, you know what? I'm not proving this to you. I'm proving this to me. And there is nothing worse than letting yourself down.
Yeah.
Like I don't need to hear from
'Cause
anybody else. When you're disappointed in you, it's like, oh my gosh, Khalia, do better. I know I can do better, and that's something that I'm really. I want to build in a part of my lifestyle in terms of what I'm putting in my body.
Yeah.
But it takes professionals to help you guide you along the way, and that accountability partner that allows you to operate in a space of being able to be the best version of yourself.
Yeah. Just be your navigation system, but you're the one making the turns and making the stops.
Yes.
So we were in the beginning of the show. We were talking about there's something that we want to kind of like let everybody know about. I'm super excited to just be in it. But a couple of weeks ago, Khalia and I had a conversation, and she's building her team as far as her players and building her team around her players. She wants to make sure her players are given the best service that they can have within St. Louis. So I'll let Khalia be the person that says it because she may say it
It was
better than me.
crazy. I was thinking about, man, like who's the best sports nutritionist that I know, who's just an incredible powerhouse that's making moves within our city. And so we are so very fortunate and grateful to have Rashonda a part of our official roster of 2020.
Yes.
Really being able to navigate us on this journey of living our best lives, really building. So I think everyone should anticipate a healthier St. Louis Surge all the way around because we've simply never had a partnership like this. So this gives us a ton of value that will not only extend to this season, but how we continue to live our lives for a very long time.
Yep. Well, I look forward to serving and working with your players and working with the team and just being that component that can be what it can be, that missing piece that just continues to help you guys to just flourish in your season, but also for these women's lives. So I am super uberly looking forward to it. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much.
Yes. So before we close out, by the time anyone hears this and sees this, it will not be time for the season to start. But I do want to give people heads up to when to expect when it's for the season to start.
Yeah.
In the meantime, what other ways can they continue to engage with you guys? Is there any social media platforms? How can they continue to learn and know about the Surge?
Absolutely. We are surging through the community year round. So for those who are listening in and being like, whoa, this is the first time I knew that we had a professional basketball team in St. Louis, or I've been to a game and I want to know what more is upcoming in the near future, go to stlsurgebasketball.com. Please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at stlsurge, and truly stay plugged in because, we are surging in the community. We are that positive energy that happens to be a professional basketball team. So the more fans that we continue to build here in 2020 and beyond, you're going to be grateful that you're a Surge fan all the way around.
Great. And have you guys had the schedule out yet, or it will be
Stay tuned for the Surge schedule. So that's a perfect reason for you to visit our website at stlsurgebasketball.com. Not only learn about the players, but see the team behind the team and how we're making this all possible.
Yes. Well, Khalia, again, thank you for coming this morning or this afternoon. I am glad we had the opportunity to just dig in a little bit deeper about what the Surge represents and what they're here for, and also the woman behind the scenes. So I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to the season. I will be there in my Surge attire, but I'll be there with the team behind the team. So for all those out there in the St. Louis area, if you have a need and a want to see some great basketball or just be a part of a community that's about helping others, not just follow them in their games, but just see what they're doing in the community and maybe be out there and be able to work with them as well. I'm sure they'll come with open arms. St. Louis Surge women's professional basketball team here in St. Louis for 2020. I want to say, just give a shout out to them. Good luck to all the players, and I know that they'll do well this year. So again, Rashonda Thornton, dietitian against diets, and I will say this, and I will continue to say this. It's not about going against diets. It's about going against the diet mentality and finding ways to what can I say, reposition. That's one thing Khalia was saying, but just change your mindset and change the way you interact with what you put in your body and start making choice out of self-care and self-love. Thank you again, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed that interview with Khalia. She has a way of building something small to something great. Not only she's passionate about it, but she is headstrong on making an experience and what the idea of women's basketball is for people in the St. Louis area. So as the season is approaching, please go out there and support St. Louis Surge women's basketball team. And speaking of support, there are a lot of companies that supported these efforts for this podcast show. So I want to recognize them. One in particular is Green Bean Delivery. Green Bean Delivery is an online grocery store, I call it, because you can go on there and select any type of grocery that you want. It's at least 20 different categories, and within those categories, you will find a variety of different products. So you won't feel that you don't have many options, because you will have a lot, but it gives you an opportunity to really kind of scroll through, look at products, see products that you may have never seen before, and be able to try them out. Anything from fresh to frozen to organic to local to regional food products, they have it for you. Go to the website and take advantage of the 20% discount if you type in Better Vessel, BETTER VESSEL, on your first 3 orders. No commitment, no subscription, just good food. Or follow them on Instagram at Green Bean Delivery. Here in St. Louis, we have a lot of local companies, and one unique one is Local Harvest. They are a corner store grocery store. They're tucked in the Tower Grove area, but if you go in there, it is a jewel. When I say jewel, they have a conglomeration of varieties of food products that's all centered around health, and they're all local products. So when I went in there, I was amazed. I was impressed. I was definitely know if I live in that area, that's where I'll be walking to and going to on a regular basis. They're all about sustainability. They encourage you to bring your own bags, and they encourage you also to bring your own jars if there's something that you had gotten there prior and coming back for a refill. So go to localharvest.com and you will get more information about their grocery store, or just find them on Instagram at localharveststl. Janie's Mill is a company here in St. Louis as well. This company, Mills, it's Janie's Mill, but it's Mills. It's a company that has bakery goods, from any baking products that you want to make. If you're in the mood for cornbread, if you're in the mood for waffles, if you're in the mood for dinner rolls, or just like different unique ways of making your breads, they have a variety of different flours, different grains that you can select and not have to worry about if it's processed over or if there's any preservatives in it. They're all big about nutritious foods, and so even the way that they process it, their grains, make sure that the nutrition and the flavor is still intact. So go to their website, select some of their products at janiesmill.com, or go to Instagram and see how they have taken bread pictures into a whole nother level. It makes you really appreciate baking products when you watch how they present themselves on Instagram. So follow them on Janie's Mill and you would be amazed. So I thank Khalia for coming. I know that she's doing big things and she's only going to continue to do more. I hope that you guys take advantage and bring your kids out and support the St. Louis Surge women's basketball team. So until next time, guys, I look forward to coming back to you and telling you how I look at nutrition and how I would want to empower you to start seeing things differently, so you can start acting differently and start appreciating foods on a different level. The Dietitian Against Diets podcast. Thank you.